What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Forbidden Land podcast. Today, we are in a dark, dingy room because we're exploring conspiracies. Ooh. And by conspiracies, I mean actual international sex trafficking crimes. That also might be tied to, not even might, that are tied to Russia and Israel. Hmm. Interesting. Um, the DOJ released millions of files. So many, in fact, that uh, I don't even know which ones to look at. They've released a lot. Like there's this one with the Ghislaine Maxwell booking information. Wow, very interesting. Wow. There's her charges. Oh, interesting. Perjury. Hmm. Hey, Todd Blanche. Could she be like a big fat fucking liar? I wonder. Yeah, and then they redact a bunch of stuff like her address for some reason, and uh, all this stuff is just redacted on here. I guess to protect the law enforcement that arrested her. Yeah, we've got stuff like this. We've got some other files like this one of her passports. Really old passport too. I mean, look at that. What was that on the side? Oh, Battle Pass. Oh, geez, they all name themselves FBI agent, or is that just what they? Oh, that's just the name that they give you. Oh, that's so funny. I got a fully redacted application for a U.S. passport. Um, I don't really get why this has to be redacted when it clearly has something to do with the following file. But one of the more interesting things I noticed is uh, stuff like this, where they redact some stuff, and then you scroll down and you find other copies of these types of files, right? And there's like different stuff redacted. And then you keep scrolling. And then there's different stuff redacted. Like it's just very strange how they do some of this stuff. But there's a bunch of like financial records. There's uh, a passport for Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, look at that guy. Wow. Ah, damn. His shit expired. Maybe that's why he killed himself. He didn't know how to renew his passport. um. Ooh, new conspiracy. The president's sworn on his birthday. Hmm. Interesting. Weird. Yeah, there's some interesting stuff in here, but it's so much, and I think they did that on purpose. I think they swamped the whole like ecosystem around people being interested in this. They like swamped it in the hopes that uh like full on left this shit out in the open. Kind of revealing. What the hell? They just kind of like flooded the ecosystem with just files upon files upon files, to where like someone like me who has gone through the entire first 9 volumes, or not first nine, first 8 volumes, I've gone through all of it at this point. I just cannot keep up with some of this stuff. Like I just can't. There's just so much. It is really hard to keep up with. And this website's like really chugging along to try to upload all this stuff. Look, they've got some new things. in here. I mean, there's just so much information. I'm not gonna go any farther than that. It looks like there's some interesting shit down there that I don't know if I should be showing. That looks like victim photos. What the hell? Why would they post stuff like that in the files? Why would they drop that? Like barely redacted too. Huh. It's like pictures of passports, rings. There's like detailed maps of Epstein's island, which I mean, I don't think we've ever gotten something like that before. Yeah, I don't think we've ever. Can't that shows like victim photos in the background. Um, there we go. There's like photos of his island with detailed, uh, markings of what's what. Hmm. I wonder if we'll ever get to see inside the temple. Unless we have and it's in this and I just haven't found it. And that's one of the problems with this release is that it's so hard to like piece together what you're seeing. There's just so much. Yeah, there's like photos of his door and after they busted it down it looks photos of like his home server and his office and um some of the big stuff that I read off last week was the FBI like allegations of Donald Trump just doing unspeakable heinous uh sexual assault and like rape crimes against minors with Jeffrey Epstein. Um I mean there's just so much stuff. Damn, look at this. Bro worked out. Shoot. Bro had that elliptical. Bro had the most uncomfortable bike of all time. I hate riding that thing, man. Shit sucks. Hurts. Hurts my balls. I'll just come out and say it. I'll be honest. Shit hurts my balls. But there's a lot of stuff in here. There's like videos of stuff, uh, like a jailhouse video of Epstein in his cell, like of him just talking to the camera. It's insane stuff. Um, yeah, I haven't seen any. That's why I'm scrolling through this. I haven't seen any of these yet. And I'm just curious what's already in here. I know they're still uploading a lot of stuff. It looks like they have like blueprints of his mansion, um, in New York. Uh, Holy shit! What the hell is this dude watching? Here's the home server I was talking about. God bless America, man. 7 monitors? The fuck is he watching? I guess this is like a security room, because that's the only way to explain why he's got the 7 monitor set, the fucking the septuple setup over here. Insane. Christ, that has to be a security room or something. It looks like we got more photos of the Bill Clinton painting, which is such a weird thing to have in your house, by the way. All right, looks like we're down to like the stuff we already knew about. A lot of these photos look familiar. Oh, photos of like his office and more gym stuff. Or no, that looks like a pump room. Yeah, this is like a pump room, right? So yeah, there it's definitely a very damning release. There's some like more photos of his desk and other like desks I guess that he had and it's just a bunch of stuff. An iPad. Whoa. Hold the phone, brother. Dude had an iPad. Damn. Collection of discs. Yeah. God, I would not have wanted to be the agent that cataloged all this. My God. I would not have wanted to have to do all that. So, seriously, I want to know if there's any photos of the inside of the temple, though. That would be an interesting thing to find out. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff in here like relating to Ghislaine Maxwell. But here's a Channel 4 report on this.
Of files linked to Jeffrey Epstein landed. They exposed the life obsessively documented. Like this video of the convicted paedophile dancing. A billionaire who used his enormous wealth to abuse and hid behind a luxury lifestyle. The Epstein files contain videos of massages, private jets and pools.
I've never seen so many beautiful girls.
A bizarre mix of more than 2,000 videos, 180,000 images.
So yeah. So there's photos of of Andrew, whatever his fucking last name is. I have no idea. I don't care to know. New photos of him, like, just towering over this woman. As if the Epstein connection with Andrew couldn't get any stronger. Then you got this. And Mr. I just, this is the thing though, is in the photo that man that looks just like me is sweating and famously I don't sweat due to PTSD from my time in the British Royal Army. Just a complete fucking idiot, bro. Giant idiot. I mean, this is just... we already had undeniable proof because we're not blind, we're not stupid. That was clearly a photo of him with a Epstein victim before. His no sweating thing was a bunch of horseshit. This is just like the nail in the British coffin. Yeah. This just like triple confirms it at this point.
Million emails, texts, flight logs, all still being sifted through. Released by the US Department of Justice without context. Some videos less than a second long.
Yeah, this one was pretty disturbing. Him running around the counter chasing the girls. Yeah, it's just kind of like,
Epstein chases
like,
women
this dude
through
was like
kitchen.
a notorious, prolific.
Voices of unidentified girls can be heard. There's also this of Epstein, which appears to be filmed while he's in prison. He's secretly recording a video message for two women, who we won't name.
You can see I have a little sore on my face that I got from some black guy trying to kiss me. It's really disgusting.
Huh. Interesting. I wonder when this was filmed. If this looks like it was probably filmed in the Florida case, but I can't confirm. Because both times he's gone to jail, he's gotten it pretty easy. Well, unless you include the death. But like when he went to jail in Florida, bro was barely in there. Like he got to basically go work, quote unquote work, and just like go home and do whatever he wanted, and then claim that as work, and then he would come back to jail. So I'm not surprised that this dude had a fucking phone in jail, but it's still like crazy to see footage like this all these years later.
Kiss me. It's really disgusting.
Among the files, heavily redacted, sexually explicit videos. And it's not just Jeffrey Epstein's personal...
Yeah, I don't understand why they even released that shit. Where it's like clearly a sexually exploitative video of a minor or of a victim, or obviously, or both. Where it's like a full redaction of just them, but you can still tell what's going on. I don't think we needed that, did we? Like, I don't think anybody wanted that. That would have been a very clear case of telling Congress, like, hey, this is why we're not releasing these. And it would probably be approved under the guise of the Epstein Transparency Act. So I don't know if we really needed all of that. It's a bit disturbing.
Images. The files also contain videos captured by the US authorities. Here, Ghislaine Maxwell in 2016 being questioned over Virginia Giuffre's civil case.
Who were the other 17-year-old masseuses they were aware of?
I'm not aware of any.
Were there any 16-year-old masseuses you were aware of?
I'm not aware.
Any 15?
Look, I just want to be clear. The only person that I'm aware of who claims to have been, and we have to, whilst I've established that I was 17, given that she has changed her age so many times.
And here she is in July 2020, a glimpse into her life inside her cell. She was waiting to hear whether or not she would be granted bail. And outside it, relaxed, making phone calls, some lasting more than 20 minutes.
This is what I mean. That the elite like her and like Jeffrey Epstein practically get away with whatever they want. Especially nowadays, she's real cozy in prison, man. Real cozy. The Trump administration gave her what she wanted, which is basically like her own personal resort to get her to not talk. And yeah, it's just a very obvious, gross example of the elite getting away with whatever they feel like.
While facing charges of recruiting women and girls, including a 14-year-old. On Monday, Maxwell...
She just looks like she's just living it up. The only thing that she has to deal with is the fact that she is stuck in that building and has to wear the same outfit all the time. That seems to be the only thing. That, the only thing that she has that's different from her normal everyday life.
Will be testifying under oath before Congress. The committee will be investigating the government's handling of the Epstein files. There is this footage from Epstein's Paris apartment. Pharrell Williams' happy plays as a woman dances. A DNA paternity test can be seen on Epstein's desk.
Whoa, what the fuck? Ew, dude. What the hell? Wow. I mean, this really does give me the fucking heebie-jeebies, I guess is the only word I can think of. This really does just, like, make my skin crawl. It's so gross. Ugh, dude. I don't think younger me could have, like young, naive me, little baby Lib Dane, who, believed in what his mom believed in and was just like this little Obama-loving lib. I don't think I could have possibly wrapped my head around this. And I think about that every day. When I think about liberals who see this stuff coming out, it's not hard to believe. It's just like, wow, it's so much to take in. I think I'm a bit numb to it at this point. Obviously, some of the stuff that's come out, I'm like, whoa. Like the Great Lakes baby story of that allegation that Trump threw some lady's baby into like a lake. I mean, that one I was like kind of taken aback. I was like, whoa. What the fuck? I did not expect that to be in here. But like I can't imagine what it's like for liberals nowadays to, Biden loving liberals to see something like this. I feel like they're just like, wow, this is going to make me throw up, like I just can't imagine what it's like to take in all of this horrific information. Just think about what all these files mean and what this whole case even entails. That there really is some like shadowy conspiracy organization that has just been, running around doing whatever it feels like for decades at this point, and they've hidden it so well until this point. Like, I don't know, you know. I don't know. It's genuinely I don't know. I'm like speechless. I have a lot of thoughts running through my head when it comes to this stuff. Because there's it's not just this stuff. Like, we'll get to it later, but Epstein is behind so much. Like, he is responsible for so much based on this recent release. It has revealed so much information, leading, lending credit to the whole shadowy organization conspiracy behind the scenes pulling all the strings. You know?
The same home where this now infamous photo of Peter Mandelson was taken. Which brings us neatly to here, Epstein outside the Louvre, with France's former culture minister, Jack Lang. Of course, we should say, appearing in the files doesn't imply any wrongdoing. The files show excess, hotel rooms, flash cars, selfies. In one clip, Candle in the Wind plays from his personal playlist.
I don't know, showing Woody Allen during that part was a good idea. Oh no. Oh my god. Talk about two peas in a fucking pod. Woody Allen pulled off Jeffrey Epstein's dream of raising his own victim from scratch. I mean, good lord. You know, I know that sounds morbid, but that is quite literally what Woody Allen did. He groomed his own victim from the ground up. Like, quite literally signed an 18-year commitment to just create his own wife in the most predatory, grooming, disgusting pedophile way possible.
On board what appears to be Epstein's private jet.
Wow.
Millions of files with little explanation. For survivors, the release reopens old wounds. While context is often missing, discomfort isn't.
Yeah, it would be nice if we knew who was who, like, to some extent. We don't need to know, like, names, but, like, what's the context here? How old is the victim in the photo? You know, how did they get there? What info do we have that leads them to that point? Oh, I didn't mean to transition back. You know, how does all that weave together for the full picture? And they just don't provide any of that info. We're just left guessing. And it's such a sloppy release. It's so obvious what they're doing. That's why I keep saying that they're like muddying the waters to make it to where you just don't have a way to figure out what's going on. Makes it harder to interpret the files. So, one of the most infamous examples of Epstein having his tentacles in everything is that he was buddy-buddy with the founder of 4chan.
New Epstein files out. The DOJ, after blatantly breaking the law that Trump signed, has now released, 40 days after the deadline, 3 million new pages and over 100,000 pictures.
Today's release marks the end of a very comprehensive document identification and review process, Federal Register.
This dude needs to be investigated. When this administration's gone, in like 30 years, this dude needs to be heavily investigated. If I was this guy, I'd be burning every trail leading back to me at this point. He's been the most sus of them all. Wasn't he the guy that said, look, you know, it's not illegal to have a party with Jeffrey Epstein? It kind of is, based on what kind of parties this man was having. I mean, Yeah, this guy's sus as hell. He's one of like the weirdest defenders of the Epstein files, because the other ones, you can tell they're just covering for their boss. That they have absolute power right now, and so they've got to cover for the president to maintain that power. Todd Blanche just feels like he's doing it for the love of the game. Bro's just out here being like, I don't give a fuck about what you've got to say about these files. Go fuck yourself. Like, that's literally his whole attitude. He's not even necessarily covering for Trump. He's just like, yep, we dropped these files. They're redacted as hell. We broke the law. And what are you going to do about it? I personally went through and deleted some of those files, you know. I mean, that's what it feels like. You know, that's what it feels like when he's defending this shit. He's one of the more sus people in the Trump administration right now.
The department's obligations under the act will be completed.
This has been a saga and story where both things are true. There has been rampant delay and violations of the plain letter of the law. On the other hand, for the cynics who said, well, maybe they'll just run out the clock forever and nothing else will ever be released, against the precedent of secret grand jury materials and DOJ's general practice of secrecy, and that runs back through both parties, a lot of material, the millions of documents, were released today. The Deputy Attorney General also spoke about whether he's covering up for his boss, whether that lead was followed. Looking at what they call the agents, accountants, authorized individuals, associates, redacted employee. Take it for what you will, but some of these people might have been charged. Only Maxwell was. Elon Musk also outed for the first time in detail in these files because he writes to Epstein about trying to come visit the island and specifically says, a year later, whether any crimes.
One of the more pathetic emails is the one where Musk is like begging Epstein to let him come to the island, and then later on Epstein emails him and says, the UN General Assembly is coming up. I'm going to be having a lot of interesting people over at my house. And Musk responds like with this huge response of like, I run a company, I'm running data like analyzation, I'm doing all this shit. What makes you think I want to sit around and listen to a bunch of boring people talk? And Jeffrey Epstein responds, do you think I'm R-worded? JK, the party will be nothing but people under 25. Like, he literally had to spell it out for him that this is one of his like notorious pedophile parties. Like, dude is so stupid. He's so dumb. One of the other emails is him sending out an email begging to come to the island on Christmas Day 2012. What a pathetic loser, man. Oh my God. Like, it's just so embarrassing to look at. So anyway, back to the 4chan founder. The founder of 4chan, who goes by Moot, was basically communicating with Jeffrey Epstein. And shortly after, he talked to Jeffrey Epstein. Like, very shortly after, 4chan launched Poll, which is the, like, far-right, politically incorrect messaging board. It gave rise to the Groyper movement, to, like, modern internet neo-Nazis. Basically sparked an entire culture war. And Epstein is the one more than likely responsible for it. I believe he's also connected to something else. Let me look this up before I say it. So Charlie Intel, which is probably a name, if you play Call of Duty, is probably a name you haven't heard in years. according to Charlie Intel's reporting, there was communication between what seems like Jeffrey Epstein and the Activision CEO. And like you can't even make this up. If I made this up, you would say it sounds insane. You would say it sounds insane. Where they are discussing Jeffrey Epstein and Bobby Kotick are discussing like ways to make money. And he brings up X price is a good idea, but Jeffrey Epstein says X price is a good idea, but key is real world rewards. Learn to read. Cell phone minutes, iPhone credits, virtual items, and games. And they respond back, I'm all for indoctrinating kids into an economy. You gotta love how his example for real world rewards is virtual items and games. These emails were sent in May 2013, around the time that Call of Duty would start implementing COD points into the game. Microtransactions. People, you mean to tell me that Jeffrey Epstein is potentially the one behind Poll on 4chan, which gave rise to the Groyper movement and all of the Nazi shit talked about on 4chan, and is even possibly behind COD points in Call of Duty, microtransactions that like ruined that franchise for a long time? This means while I was sitting at home in middle school playing Black Ops 3, buying COD points so I could open packs, get some of the weapons that you could get from the packs. Like that really cool like scout type of sniper rifle. The boxing gloves, besides the point. While I was doing all that, Epstein is the one responsible for that. Man. It's just so insane how connected he is to everything. Everything. I don't even know what to say about it. It's like Reverse Flash. You know? When you were buying COD points, I was there. It was me, Barry. I created COD points so you'd spend all your money. That's literally what it feels like, dude. Oh, man. CoffeeZilla has a good video about it. And all of the dudes connected to Jeffrey Epstein. And, you know, a lot of people are trying to, especially the UK, who is trying to launch an investigation into Epstein's connections with Russia. They're kind of leaning into the Russia thing pretty heavily, whilst totally ignoring, totally ignoring the Israeli connection. Because, this is directly connected to Israel. He was buddy-buddy with Ehud Barak, the former prime minister of Israel. And you know who's not shying away from that connection? Benjamin Netanyahu. Because Benjamin Netanyahu is a far-right Israeli leader, part of the Likud, a political party that may or may not be responsible for assassinating a former prime minister. And by may or may not be responsible for assassinating, I mean may or may not have stoked the rhetoric and ideology and the rhetoric that would have led someone down a path of eventually committing violence against somebody else, if you get what I'm saying. So he's part of the far right party. Ehud Barak is like a liberal Zionist. He's still a Zionist. He still believes in the Israeli takeover of Gaza and the West Bank, and still doesn't believe in Palestinian sovereignty or anything like that. But he's like more of a liberal figure in Israeli politics. And because he's all caught up in the Epstein stuff, even though it's very obvious that Mossad was connected to Epstein, the whole Israeli apparatus was connected to Epstein in some way, shape, or form. While that's obvious, Netanyahu's using this as a good opportunity to be like, look, my opposition is in bed with Epstein. What does that say about them, huh? Meanwhile, American media doesn't even want to mention that part. European media barely wants to mention the Israeli connection because it exposes a lot. Now, that being said, there's the other side of the coin, which is all of these anti-Semites and neo-Nazis coming out saying that this all proves that there's some Jewish cabal trafficking minors behind the scenes, completely ignoring the fact that a lot of the people in the Epstein circle are not Jewish, that Epstein was more than likely some kind of spy for the Israeli state, probably more than likely tasked with blackmailing elite individuals in America. So I think they're missing the point, which is what racist neo-Nazis do. They miss the point. They think that, really, when you take their logic, really, you could say that if Epstein was like a Christian, they would probably be like, no, it's cool what he did. Like, by their logic, that's what it seems like. But because he's Jewish, all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's this Jewish cabal. And it's like, no, it's not. He could have been any religion, and it still would have been a, horrific sex trafficking pedophile. So I think people are missing a lot of the point. But that's what neo-Nazis are known for. They're known for taking something that happened and just, way misinterpreting it and generalizing it and blowing it way into a completely different angle that it doesn't need to be viewed from, because that's not the case. So yeah, that's the Epstein saga so far. I'm still waiting to see some of the other stuff, like, I'm waiting to see what some of the photos and videos look like, because they're still processing a lot of them. It was a lot of files, man. It was like millions of files, and they originally didn't even mean to drop them. That was the other part. They originally didn't even mean to release them. So it's a lot of stuff to go through, I don't know. I think this whole thing is just like made me really become just a downer with US politics and politics in general. Like I'm still going to fight for my social causes, for people to live a better life. The part that's upsetting is all of this like readily available information that, even with all the redactions and everything, makes the Trump administration in orbit look horrible. Like they're all connected to it. It also makes the Democrats look bad because Biden and Obama didn't have any ties to Epstein, from what it seems like. But they were still protecting him. Biden especially. He had this shit at the DOJ. He had it. This was a talked about thing, Epstein. It was a talked about thing throughout his presidency. He could have released all of this, and he didn't. And he supported Israel for the love of the game. Obama's FBI had the chance to indict and prosecute Epstein if it wanted to. We're learning in the files that there were draft indictments against Jeffrey Epstein and co-defendants, co-conspirators There's at least 10 co-conspirators according to one of the redacted files. You know, the Biden and Obama FBIs had the opportunity to seize on these. Biden's FBI could have, or DOJ could have released all of this stuff. Obama's FBI could have gone after Epstein on a federal charge. And yet, they didn't do any of this. None of it makes sense for the Dems to drop the ball on this. But the part that's upsetting is seeing how connected it is to the Republicans, to the White House especially, the two Trump administrations, where a bunch of his staff in the first administration were like direct Epstein affiliates, like Alex Acosta, the one who gave him that sweetheart deal in the Florida case. And then the second Trump administration, all of the cover-ups, you know, all of the implications. Oh, and I totally forgot to mention that Steve Bannon is all over this. You know, you remember Steve Bannon? Dude, Steve Bannon. My watch dying. Steve Bannon is all over this. He's like his PR guy. There's like emails back and forth, where they're like, we should make a movie to rehabilitate your image. The great Jeffrey Epstein. You know, wipe away all the prolific sex trafficker shit. You know, you see all these connections to Trump, and his base, his most ardent supporters are still like, so, what about it? He was hand-selected by God to save our country. These people are not well. They're not okay. They've had their brain fried from the last, 10 years of Trump. You know, I feel bad for those people to some extent. I also detest some of those people because I know what they are. You know, if I wasn't white, I'd be extending zero empathy at all to these people. Like, obviously I'm gonna be not seeing it the same way that a person of color is seeing it. A person of color would be like, oh, all those ardent Trump supporters, fuck them. And you know, that's the attitude I hold, but also to some extent I do feel a little bad because it's the right-wing media apparatus that has just nuked their brain. It's taken their pre-existing biases and just twisted and warped them into this nasty, evil thing and just amplified this person into the worst person they could have become. And they support this guy. There could be 4K video evidence of Trump just like doing the most unspeakable act on a minor. And these people would be like, oh, well, no tax on overtime, am I right? Like, it's so gross. He's always going to have these like ardent supporters, just these evil motherfuckers. You know, everyone in my vicinity that I know was a Republican, that I know voted for Trump, even the ones that claim to be full MAGA, they're all embarrassed. I have family that's embarrassed. Family that has like denounced him now. I have people I work with that have denounced him now. I have a friend who voted for Trump, and over the course of us knowing each other, I've like changed his mind on a lot of stuff. And at this point, he's like, dude, I don't know if I would have voted for Trump back then if I knew what I knew now. Yeah. But speaking of the Steve Bannon stuff, yeah, they really did try to make a movie to rehabilitate Epstein's image. And, you know, Epstein is dumber than a bag of fucking rocks. And there's like a piece of that interview where he's like, look, you know, I got in the room and I was the only one who knew how to use a calculator. And they were like, hey, we need a guy to run our numbers, huh? And I said, I'm your guy. I know how to use a calculator. And it's like, dude, you're dumb as fuck. We know based on a lot of the files that he was illiterate, stupid, couldn't write for shit. Like, Good Lord. And it's crazy what a connection Steve Bannon has. And Noam Chomsky is connected to all of this too. That's what I'm saying. It's so nuts. Just everyone is connected to this. Yeah. What do you even say? So I'm sure I'll talk about this again next week because I'm probably going to know more. I'm going to learn more. There's going to be more information, more photos and videos that I've seen uncovered. I mean, there's so much stuff. People are still sifting through all of it. So I'm just waiting for more and more stuff to come out. And then I'll talk about it. But yeah, in some somewhat hopeful news, the Texas special election happened and a seat flipped. A bunch of seats flipped actually across the country. Democrats have flipped 8 state legislative seats in special elections during the 2025 to 26 election cycle. And the latest one is the Texas Senate District 9 runoff. And it is a Democrat named Taylor Remmett who defeated a Republican Lee Wamsgans. Holy shit, what a last name. But this was a heavy Trump district. You know, this was a heavy ass Trump district. Like 17 plus Trump. And it looks like they're sweeping the state, or at least the surrounding area. I mean, it's crazy that this person managed to flip a Trump 17 district. And it really does show you just how unpopular, Trump has become. God, everybody's sponsored by Polymarket, dude. Fuck. Yeah. This right here should show you how unpopular Trump is becoming. All these seats flipping. We just had another big upset in, I believe it's New Jersey, where the primary winner was somebody that like no one expected to win. They even called the runner up, the front runner, as the winner. And then boom, all the early votes came in, and the anti-Zionist won. How awesome is that? So big things are happening in the world of elections, folks. We're gaining ground. I know the Dems do indeed fuck up a lot, but if we just had a very strong, Dem majority in everything, I mean, it'd be better than the conservatives having any power. The only thing is that if they start fucking up, then I think people are gonna torches and pitchfork the Democratic Party at that point. But it really does kind of give you an idea of what the midterms might look like. I think the midterms are looking pretty decent for the Dems, but the Dems really need to get their shit together. They can't just coast out to the midterms. They really can't. I know that they look at these recent election results and they think, oh, we can just kind of ride the wave all the way to the midterms and beyond. No. You guys cannot do that. Please. You really cannot do that. That's not going to work. They're unpopular now. A lot can happen in 9 months, and it's just not smart to coast that way. They need to get more aggressive with messaging. They need to actually, they need some to actually do some action that leads to real world results that people feel, that people see. You can't just strike the name off a bill, Chuck Schumer, and call it a win. You can't just go on the Senate floor and be like, I'm going to write a strongly worded letter to the president. Like, you can't just do that. You have to do something. Block ICE funding is a good start. And then, from there, start messaging around abolishing ICE. Majority of Americans want to abolish ICE. Recent polling is showing that. that they don't trust ICE, that they want to abolish it. So get on it, people. Couple more things and then I'm gonna head off, but I wanted to show these. Not that one. I wanted to show this like short. So just one more thing actually. Caroline Leavitt makes my blood boil. The way she's so perfect for the Trump admin, because the way that she answers questions makes you want to just nuke the building. She's so annoying. She's so annoyingly good at being a propagandist. You know, the North Korean state media propagandist. It's so annoying, dude.
Caroline, yesterday the administration appears to have started dismantling the Consumer Product Safety Commission. This is the federal agency, an independent one that does recalls and is responsible for product safety. Does the administration not believe that it's important, to keep toys and cribs? I mean, you're a young mom off of the product of the market.
It's a federal agency within which branch? It's the executive branch. Who's
Now, pretty simple question. The Trump administration is dismantling the department that, or the agency that controls food recalls and food product safety checks and whatnot. So the question is, with that in mind, does Trump not think that that is important? Just to boil down the question, does Trump think it's not important to have food safety checks and recalls on unsafe food product?
It's a federal agency within which branch?
I'm going to say, the executive branch.
It's the executive branch.
Oh my gosh, I got it right. Whoa. I can't believe I got that right.
Who's the head of the executive branch?
Ooh, I know this one. The president.
The president of the United States.
Oh my goodness. I got it right. Wow.
States.
Created by Congress.
He has the right to fire people within the executive branch. It's a pretty simple answer. Francesca.
Look at how over it she is. What an ass clown.
Pretty simple answer.
Pretty simple answer to the question she didn't ask. She didn't ask what authority does Trump think he has to do this. She asked, does Trump not think it's important to have an agency that checks on food safety and does food recalls for unsafe food product? Not does he think he has the authority to dismantle that agency? Such an ass clown, such an asshole. Controversial opinion. Here's my hot take of the episode. All right, you ready for this? This is going to be my hot take. Incoming, folks, hot take. Wee woo, wee woo. The press secretary, if you want to get really hot with the take, there shouldn't be one. There should be no propagandists for the administration in the way that Caroline Leavitt does it. But let's say there is. Let's say there has to be. The press secretary, and a lot of people are going to get mad at this one, must be sworn in and answer questions under oath from journalists. That way they are beholden to the absolute truth under threat of perjury. No more propaganda from the podium. You've got to tell us what's going on. You either withhold and don't say anything and say, I'm not going to answer that at this time, or you say the truth. Because the only alternative is you lie and you go to jail. And this is perfect for Caroline Leavitt. It's perfect. It's also perfect for whoever it was before. under Biden at the end of his administration. I forget her name. But how she used to go up there and be like, "Well, we think Israel has the right to defend itself, and they're not killing children." Under my system, she wouldn't have been able to say that shit. She would have had to at least say, "Well, yeah, there have been UN reports saying that Israel is indeed bombing children." She would have had to admit that. You know, if she was under oath. You know, if she was compelled into telling the truth. Same thing with Caroline Leavitt. She wouldn't be able to be like, give that bullshit answer. She would actually have to answer the question. That's my opinion on it. I think that's how it should work. I think if you're the press secretary, you got to be sworn in every time you go up there to answer questions from journalists. I know people might think that's harsh, but people are dying out here, guys. I don't give a fuck about people's sensibilities here. If it's so bad and controversial to compel the press secretary to tell the truth to the American people, we might be in a whole different, we might be in the wrong line of business here, folks. I don't know what kind of ideas you got, but you know, I'm sorry. My plan is foolproof. If they have to tell the truth under threat of perjury, folks, American century of prosperity is on the horizon. You know, I saw a tweet recently that was like, why are so many history majors and professors and teachers major leftists? And it's like, because the more history you read, the more you realize, like, oh, I see. Perhaps this is the correct position to take on things. You know, it's no coincidence that conservatism will hammer their ideology down for a few decades and then just be blown to smithereens by progressive ideology, and we progress forward by leaps and bounds to get locked back up by conservatism for a couple more decades, and then to be blown back forward by even more progressive ideology. It's no coincidence that that's how it works. So I think the press secretary should be sworn in and have to answer questions under oath, under threat of perjury. I like my plan. I think it's a pretty good plan. Totally not biased with this type of deal. You know, I'm definitely not biased. You know, this is a great plan because I came up with it, and it's awesome and good. So, anywho, that's it. Go check out jmail.world if you want to look at the Epstein files. They're currently still indexing volume 9. They've finished volume 10, 11, and 12. And it's one of the easiest ways to view the Epstein files. You can see his emails, you see photos, 3D renders of his like home, of spaces that they have photographed in the files. You can see all the PDF documents. It's a really good resource, and it's set up in a really interesting way, you know, with the Google Drive theme and everything. I think it's a good idea. I think it's cool, and it makes it easy to search the files. So go check that out. jmail.world. You can go to patreon.com/forbiddenlandpod if you want to support this podcast, support me in making this podcast. You know, you can add the RSS feed and listen to this podcast with the bonus content included on any of your podcasting apps. If you want to do something like that. The Patreon is formatted in a way where you're able to actually do something like that. So it's pretty cool. Pretty neat. So you should totally check that out. And yeah, you can listen to if you don't want to watch this podcast and you'd rather listen, you can listen to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, the Samsung fridge. And yeah, that's all I got for this week. I'll see y'all next week. And yeah. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Peace.